second here. Maybe I could. Okay. Anyways, so we have a little drama here. Like I said, I'm not very excited to talk about this, but you know, I guess we got to. So there is a YouTuber by the name of Lily Orchard that I followed for quite a while. She was one of the video essays that like I started watching that really got me to want to do that type of thing when I was younger. Namely her Steven Universe and Korra stuff. However, she has gotten accused by quite a few people of abuse in recent years. So it's when it's like, you know, when it's a couple people, you know, it looks a little bit weird, but like I can let it slide. But our girl Lily is getting to that point where it's a little bit cray cray. So we are going to watch this and see how true that stuff is. Give me 1 second, I apologize. There we go. Alright. I apologize. So, yeah. So we're going to kind of hop into it here. Hopefully, I would say hopefully this isn't anything too bad, but apparently the accusation is child essay, so I don't have a lot of hope for that. So, I guess we'll hop into it and we'll see what's going on here. This first video is Courtney Orchard, who is Lily's younger sister, I believe. This is her original video, and after this we're going to watch Lily's response, and we have some other stuff we may watch afterwards about some other topics like Keffels and the like. But yeah, we're gonna kind of hop into this one first, and then we'll see what's going on.
Me too. When I went to her.
Oh, and obviously, you know, trigger warnings, all that fun stuff. If you're sensitive to, you know, that type of thing, because obviously the accusation is child essay. So, you know, if you're sensitive to that type of stuff, you know, there's your warning, all that fun jazz.
Page and seen her pictures. I said, "Oh, jump scare."
The following video has discussions of Costco, CSA, SA, coercion, rape, and incest. Viewer discretion is advised.
Okay.
Okay, before we get into the meat and potatoes of it all, I'd like to take a minute to thank my sponsor. Courtney, you have a sponsor? No, not really, but Hella made my puppet. And given my phone and subsequently my camera's broken, this video would not be possible without her. Her socials will be in the description so you can hit her up for your own puppet.
Alrighty then.
You know, some people have nice, normal families, happy, normal childhoods, fond memories of tussling with a sibling. Not me. I just have disappointments and the perfect setup for developing borderline personality disorder. My name's Courtney.
Well, that is quite an intro.
You may know me as Courtney Pete. You may know me as Please Tie My Shoe. Call me what you want, just don't call me late for dinner. I'm the youngest sibling of Lily Orchard and her first victim. I'm the youngest of 3 children. My mother's firstborn, Cameron, is her golden child. My father's firstborn, Lily, is his golden child. And then there's me. Now, when I say the term golden...
Okay. I didn't know about the third sibling, but okay. I'm glad she's setting up this initial stuff so we could kind of get context for things. I'm kind of emotionally bracing myself for this because I know this I know because of the pretext she's giving and just everything that's included in this, I know this is gonna be a lot. So, yeah.
Child, that doesn't mean the child has good parents. It just means they're the favored child.
Yeah, I think that's true. Like, you can be even if you're in like a really shitty workplace, for example, right? And this is kind of a weird, not metaphor, but like comparison, right? That like you could be in a really shitty workplace and still be like the favorite employee, right? Or like she said, you can be in an abusive household and you can still be the and have abusive parents and stuff and still be like the favorite child, right? Like, it doesn't necessarily mean that you get like a busy family or whatever. It just means that you are that family's favorite or whatever.
The one that can do no wrong and the one for which every excuse is made. The phrase itself doesn't indicate good parents or even good treatment. It indicates favor. And the favor of an abusive parent is still favor.
Yeah.
Cameron is not my father's son. He was maybe 2 or 3 when my mother and father married, and my father only raised him until his own child came along 2 to 3 years later. Cameron was also a violent child, aggressive and had the size to back it up. He flew off the handle at the slightest provocation and would attack my father, usually trying to hit the man intentionally in the balls.
Damn.
My mother made every excuse for
Jesus.
this behavior, just as she made every excuse for Cameron being violent towards us younger kids. He's her golden boy and can do no wrong in her eyes. Cameron also used to sexually abuse me. I have every reason to believe it started when I was in diapers, as I was always told
Hey,
she abused me.
whoa, hold on. You cannot just jump into it like that. That came out of so left field. Holy shit. I don't know why my chat on screen isn't working, by the way, so I'm probably gonna take that off. Where's chat? Okay. Anyways, yeah, Jesus. She, like, cause she went from, like, damn, that's kind of crazy that, like, he hits the dad in the balls or whatever, to, like, straight, oh yeah, he, like, sexually assaults me. Like, Jesus. Let me back that up.
She made every excuse for Cameron being violent towards us younger kids. He's her golden boy and can do...
Oh, I want to say here too. That's definitely like a thing that happens a lot with siblings. To be fair, like if you have siblings, there's usually like one of the siblings is usually the one that the parents love to death and like they treat like their golden child. So that's a fairly normal dynamic, I would say. Goddamn. So this is gonna get crazy real quick. It is interesting too. I want to check something. Hold on, before I start that again. I'm just curious here, because that's only like 15 minutes. How long? Lily's is an hour. What the fuck? Okay, she might be talking about some other. Lily might be responding to other stuff too. I assume, anyways. But we'll get into that later.
No wrong in her eyes. Cameron also used to sexually abuse me. I have every reason to believe it started when I was in diapers, as I was always told growing up that I had frequent UTIs and yeast infections as a baby, more than my siblings ever did.
Jesus.
But by the time I was 2 or 3, Cameron had started playing house with me. He would make me be the mom and him the dad, and he would say we had to make babies and would rape me. I was a toddler. I didn't know any better and had been groomed by him for God's knows how long, so I didn't resist. I still have the memories of him on top of me. He also used to make me give him blowjobs in his bottom bunk of the bunk beds he and Lily shared. He would hang blankets over the open ends of the bunk to make a fort, and then convince me to give him oral. I still remember telling him, okay, but wipe it off first. I'm not putting it in my mouth with pee on it. Because, you know, 3-year-olds don't know what pre-cum is.
Jesus Christ. Okay. So, well, for one, I'm glad I gave that little bit warning at the beginning, because Jesus Christ. We're, getting very explicit with it. Jesus. I, I don't even really know what to say to that. Like, I don't even know what I'm really supposed to comment on that. Like, that's bad. Um, but so far, this seems to be more about the brother than it is about Lily herself. But I'm assuming that at a certain point here is going to become about her as well. I'm assuming, or like something along those lines, or like Lily's going to become part of the abuse or something. I'm assuming here, but we'll see. But Jesus Christ, that's bad. Like, that's really unfortunate. And I know Courtney has a Kickstarter here. There's a Kickstarter. GoFundMe. I'm sorry. Definitely go check out Courtney, because Jesus, that's really bad. Like, I feel bad because I don't really have a lot else to say about that. But like, there's not another way to really say it. You know what I mean? But like, you know.
It was around this time he was also caught with another little girl, a 6-year-old, with her pants down. He was 10. By the time I was 6, and 3 to 4 years into being raped by my eldest half-sibling, my father decided he had enough of Cameron attacking him and made our mother call CPS to have him removed from the house. This thankfully stopped.
Wait, hold on. I'm sorry. I just thought about this. If he's 10, if he's 10, right, I would assume he would have to have learned the behavior somewhere. I would assume, at least. So, like, I wonder if he learned the behavior somewhere, or if, like, he just found it on the internet or something. But, like, Jesus, at 10, that's a wild. If that's true, that's definitely a really bad situation, obviously. Jesus.
Attacking him and made our mother call CPS to have him removed from the house. This thankfully stopped my abuse, not that anyone was aware. I've been asked why I didn't say something to my parents at the time, but here's the thing. I did. 3-year-olds just don't know the word rape. I told my mom on more than one occasion that
yeah,
I
that's
didn't
true.
like playing house with Cameron. What I was saying was that I didn't like it when he stuck his penis inside me, but that's not what my mother heard. And her response was to tell me that I should feel lucky because not every big brother plays house with their little sister. That he's my brother, and I love him, and of course I like playing with him. So, with my own mother telling me I should like playing house, and with playing house being rape, my mother told me at the time that I should like my rape and feel lucky for it.
Okay, I don't feel like that's a fair criticism, actually, because all things considered, especially considering that because of the way Courtney explained that, it sounds kind of like she didn't express to the mother what was actually happening, which obviously she couldn't because she was like 6 or 10 or something, right? But because of that and like how she's explaining it, that's how I'm assuming it happened. The mom probably just thought that you just didn't like the game or something, right? So the mom was more probably just saying that, like, you should, you know, like, playing with your siblings while you can or whatever. So I don't like the way that she framed. I get why she framed it like that because, like, of how emotionally attached she is to the situation. But, like, I don't like that framing that, like, the mom said that, like, you should feel, like, happy about the rape or whatever. Because that's not really... I don't think that's what the mom meant. I think the mom more meant that, like, you should be happy that your siblings are playing with you. Because, like, not everybody's siblings plays with them.
This doesn't really encourage one to keep speaking up, regardless of them not understanding. I was too young to know they didn't understand.
Right, so I get that, too. That, like, obviously, at that age, she didn't really have, like, the vocabulary to... like, the vocabulary or, like, knowledge to explain it better to the mom or, like, really comprehend that the mom just didn't understand what you were trying to convey, right? So I get that, too. I just didn't like the initial framing.
Shortly after Cameron was removed from the house, he was 12, I was 6, and Lily 7. Lily started coercing me into games in private.
Oh, Jesus.
She usually would ask me to sleep over in her room, and with us being close...
Bro, why? 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 Why does every... It feels like almost every YouTuber that we grew up with turned out to be a fucking scumbag. Alright, let's get this over with.
At the time, I would be happy to. It was during the sleepover she would try to, and succeed in, to talking me into things. Things like letting her practice kissing on me, asking me to come feel this, and would grab my hand and stick it in a puddle of what I now know to be cum on her stomach.
I'm sorry, what? She what?
Letting her practice kissing on me, asking me to come feel this, and would grab my hand and stick it in a puddle of what I now know to be cum on her stomach. She would wait until I was asleep,
Jesus
or
Christ.
thought I was, stand over top of me and masturbate, ejaculating on my blankets and crawling back into her bed to sleep. This went on for about 4 years, until I was old enough to realize what she was doing to me wasn't okay, and so I stopped playing along with her games and letting her practice. I didn't understand coercion when I was 10, and thought I was complicit in the games she made me play, so I didn't say anything to her parents.
Damn. Jesus Christ, Lily. Yeah, I mean, that's fair too, is that, like, obviously at the time, Courtney wasn't old enough to, like, really comprehend what was happening. So she couldn't have, like, stopped it earlier. Jesus.
Parents. I didn't know how. I just started saying no and stopped sleeping over in her room. This was when she started sneaking into my room while I was asleep. She also started asking me around this time what I thought about incest. If I thought it was a good thing or a bad thing, and why. Like any...
Bro, what the fuck? Bro, why are y'all like this? Actually, why are y'all like this? Jesus Christ.
Normal human being, I responded with disgust. That I thought it was fucking gross, and I didn't understand why she was asking me this. Lily would get visibly disappointed at my disgust, and tell me that she was asking because...
So, I will say, if this was outside of this context, like, okay. So obviously, in the context, it's weird and fucked up, especially because of the past stuff she talked about. But, like, if, I don't know, if, like, a friend asked me that question, I would have a problem having a discussion, so I don't think that's, outside of this context, I don't think that would be a weird question. But obviously, like, with the other stuff previously, it made it really weird and fucked up. Because, like, it kind of seems like Lily is, like, trying to poke and prod a little bit to get Courtney to say, like, oh, I don't mind incest. And then, like, Lily can kind of get her foot in the door there. You know what I mean? Or, like, that's how I take it, that it's Lily trying to pull a tactic, would be my guess.
Because she thought incest between siblings was the purest form of love there was.
What?
This was also in my underwear.
Lily, why? Oh my fucking god. Jesus Christ. Alright, let's read this. So, from Lily, I'm assuming that's either a Tumblr post, or that looks like a Tumblr post from, like, the font. But my guilty pleasure trope is someone being an absolute unbearable, adoring simp for their partner, best friend, / sibling. God. Why? Why? Jesus fucking Christ. Jesus. Unless Lily has some evidence and some, like, very strong explanations, I might have to disavow Lily, because Jesus Christ, this is bad.
Started going missing off my body at night. I'd go to bed wearing underwear and would wake up to having pissed the bed and my underwear not on my body or in my room. I'd later find them in Lily's room when my mother sent me to collect laundry, in her bed or under it. Speaking of pissing the bed, this is something that I did from diapers until I was about 14 or 15 years old. Also had frequent UTIs and yeast infections as a child until about 13, 14.
Jesus.
Bookmark that age in your mind for now. We'll get back to 11, 12-year-old Courtney. I caught her sneaking into my room a few times. 3 to be exact. Each time it was when our parents were either still in bed or had left for work already. I'd wake up to my door slowly creaking open and her face pressing through the crack, looking right at me to see if I was asleep. The first time, we made eye contact. She said, "Oh, you're awake. Sorry." And then backed away from my door, pulling it closed. My bed was right next to my door then. The second time, my bed was across the room from the door. She got the door fully open and had stepped into my room, again staring at me to see if I was awake. I yelled at her to get out of my room. The third time was the same as the second time, only I launched myself out of bed after her, demanding to know what she was doing in my room and why she kept sneaking in while I was asleep. She clammed up, refused to respond, barricaded herself in her own room, and stayed there until I went back to my own.
God damn.
Around the age of 13 is when Lily first got obsessed with Family Guy, and when she first started comparing me to Meg Griffin. Not in a physical way, not at first anyway.
I'm sorry. I feel like that's like more of an insult than anything, because like in the context of Family Guy, Meg is like the loser of the show. Like she's like the person of the show everybody makes fun of. So like I feel like being compared to Meg Griffin would be more of an insult than anything, but I could be wrong.
And when she first started comparing me to Meg Griffin. Not in a physical way, not at first anyway, but she would constantly tell me how I am just like Meg, how Meg reminds her so much of me. She would also tell me how into Meg sexually she was. Started her little fanfic, shipping herself with Meg and having a kid with her. She shoved the shitty fan art she made in my face about the kid she had herself have with Meg.
Jesus.
All while still telling me how much like Meg I am. How much Meg
Jesus.
is like me. And the worst part? I am like Meg. In terms of the family dynamic, her place in it, and the neglect she faces, Meg is a perfect example of my life growing up. Sure, I wasn't physically abused like Meg is, but I was as disposable to my family as Meg is to hers. So seeing that relation myself, while my sister is telling me how much she wants to sleep with the same character, really ruined any connection I could have had to that character.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense. That like sometimes if you have like sometimes if a character reminds you of someone in real life that's like a huge scumbag, or if your friend does something weird involving that character or something, it can ruin that character for you to where you can never like appreciate that character at all or connect with that character at all, because like all you'll think of is like that memory or whatever. So that makes sense. But Jesus, that's listen, that's definitely weird and fucked up. I only wish we could have like actual receipts of this type of stuff, but obviously we can't because this was like when they were like 9, 10 years old.
So this brings us up to 14. Remember how I told you to bookmark that age?
Oh,
when I was
Jesus.
14, I got my first job, had my own money, and really started to provide for myself. I had to. It's not like my parents were going to. This is also when I started to advocate for myself. I approached my father the day after I caught Lily sneaking into my room for the third time and confronted her. I told him I was afraid Lily had already been or was going to do something to me in my sleep, that I was afraid of her and what she was going to do to me. My father told me to write down all the reasons I felt that way. Lily had a psychiatrist appointment the next day, and he would take the list to her doctor and speak with him. So I did. I wrote down everything from the Meg stuff to my underwear going missing and her asking me about incest. I didn't list the games because I still felt at fault for not saying no. I gave the list to my father and waited for the next day. When they got back...
That makes sense. I can see that. Because, like, one of the big things is... one of the big reasons is always hard to get people on SA stuff is a lot of times the victims will wait a while because they either still feel shame about it, or like they don't feel like they should tell anybody, or they feel like the person will realize they told the cops or the adult figure or whatever, and so it sort of never gets solved because at the time they're like too embarrassed to talk about it, which I definitely get. Obviously that's not me like condemning victims, but that is a big thing that happens.
from the appointment, I asked my father what the doctor said. I was told by him that he was told by Lily's own doctor that I was not safe around Lily and to not leave me alone with her under any circumstances. I don't know if anything else was said or suggested because my father brushed me off after telling me this and wouldn't speak about it further. Making the mistake of believing my parents had my safety as a priority, I relaxed enough about the issue to go to work that night. I worked 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. every weekend. I got home the next morning after work and went to bed. My mother had to work, but it was a Saturday, so my father was home and I thought I was safe.
Also, I mean, that makes sense. That would be, if the doctor had any other reaction, I would be highly concerned. All right, because like the doctor reads all that, right, and that's even with her leaving out the actual assault stuff, right? So that makes sense. But then obviously it's really fucked up that the dad just like, well, anyways, moving on. Like, you know, that's obviously really fucked up. Yeah, like I feel bad because like I don't really have a lot of commentary on this, but just because it kind of speaks for itself. Like it's fucked up.
I woke up alone in the house with Lily. Dad had gone to get groceries while I was asleep and just left me there with her. I called one of my best friends in a panic, bawling my eyes out, told her everything. She lived right up the road, so she came right over and sat with me in my room, and I told her everything in more detail, including the fact that my dad was told not to leave me alone with her. My friend said to herself about finding out just how deep this shit with Lily went, and asked her to sit in the kitchen so she could play matchmaker. This friend went about asking Lily what kind of girl she would be interested in, what kind of hair, what color eyes, what body type, etc. After every question, Lily would look over at me. I was doing dishes in the kitchen to listen in on her answers, and answer every question with, kinda like Courtney's. It was the body type question that sent me over the edge. I was cleaning the meat cleaver, so I took it to Lily's throat. I'd already grabbed her by her hair, and I told her I would gut her like the pig that she is if she so much as looked at me wrong. I asked my father for a door lock when he got home. He said no. Walked to Walmart and got myself one, then proceeded to argue with and call my father's bluff when he tried to stop me from putting it on my door. I told him if he wasn't going to protect me, then I would protect myself, and if I had to leave to do it, I would. I stopped wetting the bed that year. My underwear stayed on my body all night, every night from the first night I had the lock. Okay,
Jesus.
I'm gonna take a page out of Swoop's playbook and put in a little kitty palette cleanser. Enjoy some pictures of Batman and chill music for a minute. Look at him. He's so fat. He's only got 3 legs. He's my little tripod.
I think these are always a good idea. Or not, I don't know about always, but these are definitely good ideas to have in these type of videos, because when you have like the really serious, fucked up story for like most of the video, it's very easy to get kind of overwhelmed.
He also turns 11 in August, so he an old man. If you guys want to buy this old man a birthday present, he's got a wish list on Amazon. I'll have it in the description below.
Okay.
So
there's more.
That's the gist of my sexual abuse at the hands of both my siblings. All 12 to 14 years of it. Most of it at Lily's hands, taking advantage of the grooming I faced at Cameron's. I wish I could say that's all I had to deal with in my household growing up, but if I'm being honest, it's only the half of it. The neglect, parentification, victim blaming, and emotional abuse I suffered at the hands of my parents, as well as growing up in a household filled with screaming, fighting, threats of violence, acts of violence, etc., comprised the rest of my childhood. Until I decided that sleeping in a bus shelter in the rain was a better option than going back to those people. And don't think I've forgotten about you, Ethel. I should thank you after all. That greedy stunt you pulled with Bangelina is really what pushed me to stop relying on someone else to get the truth out about my sister and just start my own series. I look forward to what you have to say when I use all the same screenshots that Bangelina used. You know, the ones you don't own. But I'm getting ahead of myself. That's for the next video.
I'm assuming this is unrelated.
Alright, that was rough. More so for all of you than me, really. I'm used to repeating this stuff. Some of you are hearing it all clearly for the first time. Big thank you to the people who helped me make this video. Your suggestions were greatly appreciated. And of course, another big thank you to Hella. Without her, I wouldn't be here looking this amazing. Take care of yourselves, and I'll see you all in the next one. Buckle up, because we diving into Lily's wrongdoings since I've left the house.
Well, I don't really have another reaction other than Jesus fucking Christ. That was, oof. That was a lot. I'm curious how Lily is going to respond to that.
It's about 26. This is important to mention because I started...
But, well, let's see what Lily's talking about here. Come on.
Sorry for the stock footage in the background.
But this is Lily's video. This is Lily, I'm assuming, debunking a bunch of arguments that have been said about her.
But this isn't going to be one of those elaborately edited videos that hangs your attention on every single piece. So if you're the kind of person who gets pissy over yapping, I suggest you go jiggle your father's keys to amuse yourself. For those just finding this video because some drama YouTuber just linked to it, my name is Lillian Valerie Orchard. I'm a YouTuber who does media critique that is predominantly focused on characters and themes. I've often gotten a reputation for being negative based on a minority of my videos, but my work actually takes concepts and ideas and unpacks them regardless of quality. I'm also a survivor of long-term physical, emotional, and sexual abuse that went on from my birth until I was about 26. This is important to mention because I started my channel in 2009 when a lot of this abuse was still ongoing. So I've been working in the public eye and have had my interpersonal relationships scrutinized by the public while I was escaping my abuse and going to therapy and recovery. And I can't claim to have recovered or healed to a significant degree until I was 28. During that time, many of my old and new abusers have used my often erratic and strange behavior as a weapon against me. I have also been stalked incessantly on the neo-Nazi forum Kiwi Farms and have had my address leaked in multiple places.
Okay. Alright, first of all, Lily, I'm gonna have to deduct points for you calling Kiwi Farms a fucking neo-Nazi thing. No, it's not, but okay.
I've even been assaulted in real life, though I have no proof the assault happened that wouldn't be extremely invasive to show. Over the years, my abusers, which include former friends who I broke things off with because they were abusive, have tried to deplatform me with increasingly extreme accusations, right up to weaponizing the right wing's rhetoric about trans people and even policing my ethnicity. For the most part, I've attempted to simply ignore these things and move on with my day. But after 12 years, it's reached the point I can't just ignore it anymore and decided to unpack all of this harassment. Granted, this video isn't going to cover everything. It mostly covers the accusations of me being a groomer, the accusations my sister has made, and someone's weird tangent about my heritage. If you're here asking about Madhouse or Iris and Kira or Scars or whatever other project you found in my back dumpster, you're gonna have to wait until another time. This is the important shit. If you're here expecting an apology for me being rude to you personally, well, it is actually here. Skip to the conclusion. Most of this video is taken from the videos of Ethel Thurston, with additional videos by I Love Kim Possible a Lot and Courtney Pete. I will not be showing clips unless they're especially relevant, but I will have the video we're discussing here, and the timestamp in question just underneath it. And just because I know someone will ask, I'm going to put the music down here. Some of these videos contain references to other videos or claims I won't be covering, which will not be acknowledged. Like I said, this is important stuff. You can find all or most of the links down in the description below, so if you want to just poke through this stuff yourself, you can go right ahead. And fair warning, I'm not going to be...
Also, one thing I will point out too, and I forgot to say this earlier. The problem with accusations against Lily, right? Normally, I would say that we're going to need a lot of evidence from Courtney before I even begin to believe stuff like this. The problem is Lily has had a lot of people make claims against her. The problem is when there's so many claims about you, there's a certain point where it's like, maybe it's true. Like, there might be some truth to it may not be to the extent that people are claiming, but like there may be at least some truth to allegations when there's this many claims of abuse against you.
Be diplomatic about this. I am very angry that I've been lied about and harassed for this long, and I fucking deserve this. So Rachel Cohen made a video trying to aggregate all the accusations against me, but in typical Rachel fashion, it's made up of other people doing the actual work while she sits there telling people to like and subscribe. So we won't be talking about Rachel very much herself. She opens her video with a discussion about me supposedly faking being indigenous. Full disclosure right up front. My family's Cherokee on my mother's side. My grandfather's grandparents had to hide their identity because of racism, because it was the late 1800s, so my grandfather, and by extension his 5 children, were largely displaced from their heritage. Especially since my grandfather was in the military and ended up being stationed in Canada and made roots there. My aunt Sharp moved to Ottawa as an adult and started tracing all this down, which led to the remaining members of the family slowly reconnecting over time. Granted, not everyone has. My sister and brother largely rejected their heritage, though my brother kind of turned around on that after having 2 Inuk children. And I did it first, but I've been slowly reconnecting with it as well. It's been especially slow for me because I'm the black sheep of the family, and there's a great deal of bad blood and bitter feelings involved. Everyone in my family had a hand in severely hurting me when I was a child, 2 of them, far more than others, and to date only one of them.
So, one big problem here is they're both kind of claiming to be, like, the black sheep of the family. Which it may be kind of true on both ends. Like, it may be kind of true that they both got fucked over a lot, so they both, like, assume that they're, like, the black sheep of the family or whatever. But that's definitely, like, a conflicting thing. That, like, Courtney claims she was the black sheep, and then, like, Lily's also claiming basically the same thing.
My mother has offered anything close to remorse or an apology. So doing anything with the family is an emotional ordeal. I have never suggested to be an authority on indigenous issues. I have issues with the word Indian, but that's because I'm an eternal pedant. I am reconnecting and will do so at my own pace. But I am always making that clear to people if they ever try to go to me to get their opinions on indigenous issues affirmed. Anyway, because some people don't like me, and I guess going after an indigenous woman is too much for their conscience to bear, they've been trying to accuse me of being a pretendian, usually citing my skin tone. So KP dragged someone in who claimed to be an expert on investigating claims of pretendianism. Matt's section is largely reserved for a document attached to the video, which starts with preface. This section was penned specifically by an unenrolled descendant of the Turtle Mountain Band of Chippewa Indians and an Apache affiliation of unclear origin. Unenrolled. So this person has the same ancestral claims that I do. For those not aware about how being indigenous works, enrollment is 90% of your status as an indigenous person. If you're enrolled in your tribe and you're a recognized member, congratulations, you don't have to prove anything else to anyone ever again. If you're not...
Okay, so yes, I have heard about this. So, my understanding is basically if you're, like, enrolled as part of the tribe, that, like, you're Indian. Like, you're indigenous, you're Indian, or whatever. Like, there's no debate about it. But if you're unenrolled, then, like, you're not actually part... You may have the DNA, but you're not actually part of the tribe. So you're not actually part of the Indians or whatever, is my understanding. And, like, that tribe won't claim you at all, even if you have DNA to their members.
And you have a claim, you have to remain keenly aware of that at all times. You are entitled to your heritage, regardless of your enrollment status, and the experiences of displaced indigenous people are varied and confusing at times, and a lot of us are afraid of talking about it because of shit like this. The speed at which you reconnect and enroll is completely up to you, but if you aren't enrolled, it would be a very stupid idea to try and speak on anything with authority. Anyway, Matt immediately starts speaking with authority, and it has to be seen to be believed, because I swear they just Googled First Nation status and went from there. They state right up front that blood quantum is a harmful notion in the community, and then start focusing entirely on blood quantum.
Wait, hold on, let me read that. So it says Chippewa Indians and an Apache affiliation of unclear origin. Though blood quantum is a harmful notion in the community, the speaker's total blood quantum stands roughly anywhere between 12 to 24% due to inconsistencies in lineage documentation. 25% is the Florida enroll, so the writer is less than 1 generation removed from federal guideline, and all descendancies were taken into account. Wait, what the fuck is blood quantum? Give me 1 second, because I've never heard of that. Okay. That makes sense. So, my understanding is blood quantum is just, like, how much Indian you are. Like, because I assume there were federal laws that had to do with blood quantum. Okay, that makes sense. So, yeah, I can see how that would be, like, harmful to the community as a whole.
Blood quantum is a harmful notion in...
Where you're, like, debating who has higher blood quantum, like, who is more Indian than the other person or whatever. So I could definitely see how that would be really harmful to the community.
The community, and then start focusing entirely on blood quantum. Again, for those who aren't aware, blood quantum is the amount of native blood you have.
Oh, well, she says it rather anyway.
The vast majority of indigenous people are of mixed heritage, so the U.S. federal government imposed a restriction on native people in that you need to have 25% blood quantum in order to be considered indigenous. Why did they do this with only indigenous people and not black or Hispanic people? To restrict tribal growth and prevent indigenous people from claiming their heritage. The U.S. government has been basically trying to starve out the tribes for years so they can move in and claim their sovereign territory. If that all sounds like open and brazen genocide to you, that's because it is. Tribal populations will decline steeply over the next 100 years if they keep enrollment at 1/4 blood quantum. That is the entire purpose of blood quantum. So this person recognizes that and then proceeds to just spend the next...
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense. That, like, at a certain point, obviously, the blood quantum is going to keep lowering when, like, people marry outside the tribe and stuff. So that makes sense. I don't know if I would go as far as to call it a genocide, necessarily. I feel like that's a little bit much. But I could obviously I can see the problem with that, of putting a law based on like how much of that tribe's blood you have or whatever. I can see that's problematic and like how that's a big problem. But I still wouldn't go as far as genocide.
Majority of this fussing over my fucking blood quantum. And here's a take from 5 years ago, let's act like that still matters. They then proceed to nitpick the color palette of my puppet, which is light-skinned, just like I am in real life, but apparently it's not the exact hex code people want from me, and then bitch about the fact that the puppet wears feathered ear.
Let me see, next darker than the script shots also provided here of a person, like she's just to wrap now, feather earrings and shit, but I would Interesting.
I like cute, tacky things like fuck you. The last claim this person...
I think bitching about the skin tone of her character is a weird criticism. Definitely. But this isn't really the part I'm particularly concerned about. Obviously, I'm more concerned about the Courtney sexual assault stuff. But as far as this, yeah, that's a weird criticism to make of her. That like, oh, your avatar's skin tone is way lighter than yours, so you're not really Indian. That's a really strange criticism.
Person makes is that I have changed my tribe my family comes from and that my grandfather wasn't Cherokee. They get this information from Courtney, who is just making shit up. My grandfather is Cherokee. Courtney.
Wait, let me read this. Quick question. Your granddad was a flavor Iroquois, Sal Fox, and I'm not even gonna begin to try to pronounce that. He's 50% by blood quantum. It was his mother. Grandfather has no government recognition of his status by either Canada or the U.S. He was, however, claimed by Iroquois, I believe, before his death. The native claims that the family are true. Lily just has the details all wrong because she's ever bothered to ask the source. I mean, sure, but like that doesn't really change anything. It's still a weird criticism.
Who is just making shit up. My grandfather is Cherokee. You could Google him. It's on everything that mentions him. There are news articles about him. There's no doubt that the family claim is Cherokee, so Courtney accusing this of being a lie is itself a lie. All of this person's information just comes from Courtney, who they are taking at face value based on... what? Well, given the fact that they devolve really hard into complaining about how I lose my temper...
Lily, you're white, you look white, you act white, you were raised white, know nothing of your native history, nor do you care to learn anything about it. And then you literally... Yeah, I mean, obviously, the person asking the question was just trying to get a reaction, and Lily obviously gave them that reaction. Obviously, I would always say to, not really give people a reaction because you're just gonna encourage them more. Feed the trolls, as they say. But I get why Lily was upset. I just personally would always say to not give the people giving the trolling questions that reaction because it's just gonna encourage them more. But like I said, I get why she was upset.
with people who bother me about this, they're essentially claiming you didn't keep your cool under years of harassment from invasive randos, therefore you're sus. And hanging on the fact that I have feather earrings, like, they're clearly bothered. They're clearly bothered about me, and so are taking people at their word if they reaffirm Mad's narrative. This is why they straight up lie about my grandfather's tribe, because 90% of their claim I'm faking is based on blood quantum, and the Cherokee Nation doesn't use blood quantum. So many of their arguments are based around federal status and not...
Lily's initial claim to Indian status was a generic claim of Cherokee. Cherokee carry a problematic and historic association with white erasure and pretensionism. Cherokee were considered by colonizer society to be one of the 5 civilized tribes and had a degree of a pass their society as a non-savage culture because Christianity integrated quickly into large parts of Cherokee, blah blah blah. Because of this adoption of resemblance to Anglo-American society, it became harder to identify a distinctly Cherokee person, particularly when their lineage starts to pick up significant non-ethnic Cherokee components to it. Okay. Again, there's just not a huge point to this section. Like, this is just kind of weird criticisms to give about her.
Tribal membership, and that's because Mad is an unenrolled indigenous.
Like, this part is like, that's definitely where they're making these criticisms, but like, and it's unfortunate that Lily had to like hear people questioning her race, but like at the same time, at this part of the video, I don't really care that much.
Person scolding another unenrolled indigenous person for having the exact same credentials that they do, but who talks openly about the experience of reconnecting with their culture and is honest and upfront about being a displaced indigenous person. Did I buy those earrings because it made me feel the tiniest bit closer to my aunt, who I'm not particularly close with, but who I always thought was really cool? Yes, viewer, yes I did. Do I own a dream catcher because I'm a basic bitch? Actually, no. My mother gave this to me when I was 7 after coming home from Oklahoma where she'd been visiting her father. So its meaning to me is entirely sentimental. I've had this Dreamcatcher for 25 years. I've had this longer than I've been reconnecting with my own heritage. It predates my awareness of my family history. Sure, it might be something my mother picked up from a craftswoman thinking, oh hey, my kids will like these, but its meaning to me is what matters. My mother was always trying to get me interested in my heritage, and one of my bigger regrets is not being more receptive to it, especially now after she's been the only one to offer me a sincere apology for how I was treated as a child. Is Mad this open and upfront about their relationship with their own heritage? I don't know. I didn't check. But given the aggression with which they weaponize the wrong info and even rhetoric that skirts the orbit of genocidal, I'd be hard-pressed if they did. It sounds to me, at least, that Mad not meeting the requirements for enrollment in their tribe bothers them, and they're taking it out on me. But if you're displaced from your family's tribe, you're still entitled to embrace your heritage in however way you want. A pretendian is someone who takes up attention and money that would go to indigenous organizations. I'm not someone who does public speaking on indigenous issues, and I always say that I'm displaced, assimilated, and reconnecting, and you should ask someone else. These are not things a pretendian does. You're taking part in the harassment of another indigenous person based on the lies their abuser is spreading. Lies you can easily check and refuse to. And I'm not even going to hold this against them. A lot of people have been tricked into being a part of this harassment mob. Outside of Brittany, Patch, Courtney, KP, and Ethel, if most of these people backed away and stopped talking about me, everything would be forgiven. I don't want an apology or a public retraction. I just want to be left alone. I know it's common online to expect people who've wronged you to prostrate themselves in public for the next several years, but I don't. Just leave me the fuck alone.
Okay, thank God we're finally over that first part. Yeah, like I said, that's a weird criticism to give of Lily, but like I kind of don't care. It's that part's kind of a non-issue. Even she said that like she doesn't even really want an apology. She just wants them to stop fucking with her about her heritage / race, which is a dumb criticism to give anyways.
So KP then interviews Courtney, which we're going to get into later because I'm saving Courtney for the last. Before moving on to her attempt to harass Sketchy by claiming...
I'm concerned about some recent Lily stuff. You are allowed to do what you please, but I wanted to try to talk to you if you aren't interested. If not, I'll be. I'm not really comfortable with discussing my friends when they're not around, unfortunately. Sorry. I'm happy to discuss with a third party if needed. No, thank you. What the fuck does that bottom part say? I didn't expect that you wouldn't even hear me out. Well, can't say I didn't try. Okay. Yeah, I mean, like, it's good that they reached out, but it is obviously weird that they reached out to talk to your friend without you being around. But I kind of get it. But like I said, I will say that reaching out to get comments is at least more than a lot of these headpiece people will do. So there's at least the courtesy there.
Sketchy refused to hear her out. Basically, she wanted to talk to Sketchy about all these accusations made against me, and then shows screenshots that makes it very obvious that she's lying. Sketchy says rather plainly, I am not comfortable discussing my friends when they're not around, to which KP offers adding a third party whose relation to the case she had yet to disclose. But she is unfortunately missing the point. Sketchy did not want to have this conversation while I wasn't present, so the third party had to be me. And I know this because I have the rest of the DM. Sketchy was willing to have this conversation.
Like I said, I'm not really comfortable with this kind of stuff. If somebody asked me to discuss the concerns with you behind your back, I would give them the same answer. I just said that I'm happy to discuss things with third party if needed. So yeah, she did say that. So it depends on her answer to this next part. Because if she won't let Lily be in the conversation, then that's why Sketchy is disagreeing with her. If that third party isn't the person we're discussing, I'd really rather not. With all respect possible, please leave it be like you said you would. Before you die in that hell, have I mentioned in any circles, I would feel I would have the right to know about such conversations.
But only if it wasn't behind my back. I had to be there to defend myself against unfounded accusations, and KP didn't want that because I openly denied the accusations. It's also worth...
Which, that's a fair stipulation. Like, if somebody came to me... So let's say there was, like, accusations against Sky and Matt, right? Somebody came to me about accusations about them and asked me for a comment or wanted me to talk about it, right? I probably wouldn't feel comfortable talking about it without them around. Or if I did, I would have to give them a lot of charity because it would feel really fucking weird and kind of disrespectful to talk about, like, them while they weren't there, especially accusations against them.
Mentioning that Sketchy is aware of everything that's said about me. Like, when Courtney popped up, I was in my private...
Hold on. Jesus Christ.
She is aware of everything that's said about me. Like, when...
Okay. My crackhead sister is back from the... Jesus Christ, crackhead sister is crazy. Back from the depths and having a foul meltdown. What brought her back? I think her dealer boyfriend ditched her. Your sister is alive. She's sorry you had to deal with that. She's just screaming turfy accusations on Facebook. The Howler monkeys are doing it up, but that's about it. Okay.
When Courtney popped up, I was in my private...
Truly is that evil. Took courage to post that. Love you, Riley. Had to restart my computer. Sister is vile. Fucking fuck God. What? Chicken hugging your sister meant to doing this and that was her too much.
Private channel with my friends talking about it. So Sketchy isn't somebody who's been kept in the dark about the accusations. He is aware of them. He is fully aware of them, and he is aware of the level to which they are false. So when KP said that nobody would hear her out, she lied. KP straight up lied. She even tries to gaslight Sketchy by claiming he's choosing his own personal comfort. Nope. No, he wasn't. He would have had this conversation if I was present. Something he would have also done if she had been accused of something or someone approached her. Sketchy refuses to talk about a friend behind their back.
Well then, that being said, I'm personally disappointed, and honestly, we'll put off that you were choosing your person. I think they meant personal comfort. over ethical practicality and principles, but you can't lead a horse to water kind of thing. Feel free to reach out if you choose to. This conversation is over. And then respectfully, the ethical thing for me to do would be to not talk about someone behind their back. As I said before, I would have done the same thing if someone asked me about you. Like I said, I think that's a reasonable stipulation to have. Because it'd be obviously really fucked up to talk about the person when they're not there.
Which is a perfectly fine boundary to have. KP then goes on to show a recording of her confronting me about Courtney. Minor correction, this happens before the sketchy DMs, but I'm not going to go back and rewrite this section because I'm disrespectful like that. Where she confronts me about Courtney's accusations. Among a few other things, but this is
okay, so it's kind of disjointed.
I deny the accusations and point out how Courtney has been on a transphobic poison.
Alright, let's see here. Jerry's a pedophile, Jesus, who lies about everything. My brother never had cancer to begin with. Suffering for his life, he's only trans to get yeah. He's only trans to get unfettered access to unsupervised youth to sext and groom them. He molested me my whole childhood. I hope he does get cancer, dies. Sorry, Jesus. Dare you? Decade, get your facts straight before bothering people. I'm not her sister. She has no sister. Sorry. Okay. Jesus. Yeah, that's the thing. Okay, so I was giving her the charitability. Like, I was giving her the charitability, and I was gonna kind of believe it for her, just because based on context. But here, where you're making the accusation that they're only trans, like, they're not actually trans, like, they're only trans so they can, like, rape kids. Like, you need a lot of evidence for that, dog. That's not one I can just take at face value. You need a lot of evidence for that. So that's not one I can take at face value, where you're just assuming people are, or that somebody's trans just to grift so they can, like, assault people. Like, that's a big accusation.
Spitting Brigade, which I have screenshots for. KP's counterpoint was, and you're gonna love this.
So Context had very early stage cancer in late 22. Wasn't a major alarm when I'm fine. Courtney is accused me of lying based on nothing. She is just reflexively screeching. She needs to paint me as a pathological liar, so nobody will believe me if I talk about her abuse.
The accusations were too severe for someone to just lie about.
You really think someone would do that? Just go on the internet and tell lies?
KP, people have made worse accusations about you. Never mind that trans people get accused of preying on minors all the time. Never mind that when you don't have a significant social media presence, you have nothing to lose and everything to gain by doing it. Never mind that this...
So there's also that, like, that it being such a, like, such a strong accusation, like such a extreme accusation, doesn't necessarily mean anything, right? That doesn't necessarily mean that it's true just because it's a really big accusation. So that's a really weak, like, explanation, I guess. Yeah, I'm not a fan of that explanation.
This is literally policy in some states. KP decides my denying of the accusations carries less weight than her making them because she just decided that was the case. She then decided to offer to mediate a call between me and Courtney, and are you fucking kidding me? Oh boy, yeah, I sure would love it if the Queen of the Lollipop Guild organized a call between me and my abuser, like we're on an episode of fucking Smiling Friends, just because she's a gullible shit with all the political awareness of a drunk sparrow in a rave.
Damn.
Fuck you. Some people were surprised at how abruptly I ended the call.
I don't feel comfortable with this, Lily. I really don't. And then, alright, goodbye. Double take with how quick she just ended the call and threw you away.
Call when KP said she wasn't comfortable with the accusations made against me. I just said, alright, bye, and left and blocked her on everything. Simple reason for that, I don't want to be friends with anyone who believes any of this garbage. And that's something I'm entitled to do. I didn't yell.
I mean, yeah, technically. Like, obviously you have the right to do that. I don't think that's a good practice personally. Because you should have people that challenge you. But, like, on the other hand, obviously, if they have that, like, if they have the context and evidence and stuff, and, like, they're your friend, and then they still believe it, then it definitely is a problem. But I don't know if I would go as far as to like block people and like completely throw them out of my life because they don't take me at face value immediately, right? So I don't know how I feel about that practice, but obviously, you know, Lily has the right to do that if she wants to do that.
I didn't scream. I didn't call her any names. I just said bye and left. You're not comfortable being friends with me because of the accusations made against me? Fine. Bye. I'll set whatever boundaries I want, thanks. It wasn't that quick, honestly. The fact that for a while, KP would jump into my streams and immediately ask to self-promote before even engaging with the conversations always rubbed me the wrong way. But I mean, she did at least ask first, so I guess I can't hold it against her. And you can go back over the podcast we did talking about personal trauma where I bring up most of the stuff, and she's just kind of...
I mean, it's a pretty normal practice, to be fair. Like, when you go into streams a lot of times, people, like, if you go in, like, a debate on a stream or something, a lot of times people will tell you to tell people where they can find you and stuff. So that's a pretty normal practice, to be fair. But yeah, if they're doing it, like, if they're initiating it every stream, it's kind of weird, obviously.
Disinterested in anything that isn't about her. We just kind of accepted that. I mean, it's not that KP was a shitty friend, it's just, she was just kind of there, and it was just something to make cutting the thread upon KP crossing my strictest boundaries easier to do. This isn't even to call KP a bad person.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like everybody has that one friend that, like, talks about themselves a lot. And, like, so if you have, like, an issue dealing with, they'll, like, kind of steamroll it into, oh, yeah, you know, I had that problem before and blah, blah, blah. That happens. So, sometimes people are really just, like, they have a very steamrolly personality, so they don't even necessarily intentionally do it. That could definitely happen. It just kind of depends on the context.
Cutting the thread upon KP crossing my strictest boundaries easier to do. This isn't even a call.
But I could also see, like, why that would make it easier to cut her off when the time came. But right here, Rachel has PTSD and that makes you odd in the head. I've been the same way since my R-word rolled back into town. Jesus.
KP a bad person for being an aloof, self-centered weirdo who's always disassociating. It's just that all that stuff made me realize I wasn't really gonna miss her. KP ends her video claiming I can't debunk this because she uses hard evidence. We've gone a bit into why she hasn't, and more is to come. But in general, you should always be extremely suspicious of any accuser who tries to convince you not to listen to the accused's response. There's red flags, and then there's red flags with an air raid siren and flashing lights. Okay, so Brittany's been having a fit for the last decade, but all of her issues with me were summarized in her section of this one video. So we're going to use that. Brittany accuses me of harassment, coercion of sex acts, accusations of a sock puppet, and accuses me of being attracted to minors and animals. Animals, that's a new one. Anyway, when Brittany makes all these claims, she proceeds to say that the chats are lost. How convenient. You're gonna see a lot of that, by the way. Except not really, because she actually does show chat logs, allegedly of me and her, with the ends of our surnames to identify us, using it as proof of me prompting unwanted physical roleplay. The physical roleplay being a cuddle. But what's even better here, like, is that her screenshot, it shows her initiating it. She accuses me of prompting an unwanted snuggle, and then the screenshot is of her prompting the snuggle. I have to laugh, because if I don't laugh, I'll cry. Especially with this next one, because it actually visibly made me angry. Brittany brings up a claim about a sock puppet account, and accuses me of using it for coercion. The chat logs of this account are shown multiple times, but they have no name, no profile picture, and no timestamp. This is what Brittany uses to accuse me of pedophilia. When someone else makes an accusation with no proof, Brittany will go, I can confirm this, here's her...
Let me see here. Are you scared or intrigued? Both leaning more towards disturbed. Well, I don't tell people about it since it was crazy illegal. I can imagine. But let's just say if there's one type of bullying, I'll never tolerate skate bashers. Last year, a girl was being viciously bullied at school by another girl for being a lesbian. I fixed that. And then I actually know the person alleged these chats, and this never happened. She just makes up horrible stories. Yeah, I mean, like, if you have evidence that she makes those up, it's, you know, It's a weird habit to make up stories like that. But again, I feel like everybody has that one person that like swears that they fight people all the time and this, that, and the third, but they never fought somebody in their fucking life, right?
Sock puppet account. This is my first time seeing her proof, and it's fucking nothing. I don't even know what program this uses. It's literally nothing. And this is what's being...
You're a sadistic little thing. You should punish me. Quick prefer. Yeah, I mean, like this is definitely really weird and cringe. Obviously, like, and like around here where it says I'm a softie though. Especially like right here-ish where it says I'm a softie though. It Lily's obviously kind of not into it. But the other person keeps going, obviously. So it's really, again, definitely really weird and cringe.
Used as proof that I'm some super predator? Are you fucking kidding me? This is the most amateur hour shit show of a fucking interview I've ever seen. For 10 fucking years, I've had people accuse me of craven shit, and this is their fucking source? Brittany makes excuses for why she doesn't have chat logs. And then when she shows chat...
Are we doing Thought Bubble in version 3? Nice. I like version 3 a lot better. Might as well. Peas.
Chat logs, they either show her starting shit or her talking to her fucking...
Someone's lying about fucking a dog, and Britt's just like, so how was it? I'd love to see the uncropped version of this. Really? Yeah, so how's the dog? Damn good. Okay.
Self. How did anyone ever take this bitch seriously? I'm not even doing the rest of the interview. She goes on to make claims about me that rely on this. And it's nothing. It's fucking nothing. It's not just that Brittany is lying, it's that she's so...
Damn, the accent came out for a minute. Yeah, like, I mean, these are definitely really weird and cringe. But they don't necessarily mean anything.
Obviously lying. You have to have an axe to grind against me in order to not recognize her as a liar. Brittany likes to claim I run an echo chamber where I tell my audience to not listen to anything anyone has to say against me, and that's why it's been this difficult to deplatform me. But no, making this video, my entire Discord went through her garbage, and she doesn't have anything. Here's the truth of my friendship with Brittany. We had a quasi-sexual relationship, but a poor friendship because she was just a fair-weather friend. She was present when she wanted to vent, and not present when I wanted to. So I stopped being friends with her, and she has been so angry about it for 10 fucking years that she's decided to present consensual acts between us as coercion and pressure, saying, I know it looks like I consented, but I was walking on eggshells around her. Fuck you, Brittany. This is a common theme in some of the claims made against me. People will consent to things with me while we're friends, and then when the friendship turns sour...
Yeah, that's definitely an issue that happens a lot with people where, like, in the moment they consent and everything and they're completely into it, and then when you end up have a fight afterwards and y'all aren't friends anymore, and now they'll pull it back like, well, actually I was walking on eggshells. Yeah, I don't think you can. I'm never a fan of that. So again, that's kind of retarded, but you know, it is what it is.
Or turn around and claim I abused them. I'm not even getting into Patch because it's the same thing. I commissioned art of my puppet from them, and then after the friendship ended, they decided they felt shortchanged and spun that into a story about me supposedly exploiting their financial situation. And that's literally it. That's their whole fucking story. So
that, I haven't heard that story, so that one I would have to do some research into.
You can't fucking do that. Especially if you're not going to communicate that with me beforehand. The thing is, these two, as well as my ex being allergic to communicating anything, messed me up. I practically demand clear and upfront communication from people now, and I will cut friendships with people who won't do it. I will not be friends with anyone who can't communicate clearly and frankly. I can't do anything if you don't tell me. And if you aren't comfortable with something, don't fucking tell me that you are. And that's KP's video and all of Brittany's complaints, sans her section on Courtney, which is mostly reassurances KP didn't do anything wrong, and citing Courtney's video itself, which we'll get into later. But first, we have to get into...
I mean, yeah, that's something I've always said, where, like, you can't get mad at people for crossing a boundary if you never set that boundary with them, right? Like, you have to set that boundary. If you have that certain boundary that you don't want people to cross, you have to set that up with them. If you don't like people talk about certain topics with you, you need to let them know that. Or et cetera, whatever your boundary is. Like, you have to let people know that. If you don't let them know that, you can't be mad from that. When they don't follow that boundary.
Ethel.
But assuming all of that's true, I can see, obviously, why that made Lily have really weird boundaries.
Fuck me, here we go. So Ethel Thurston goes by the name of Essence of Thought, and further cements my belief that the closer your username gets to true smarty rational brain mind, the farther you are from it in real life. Ethel tried to make a career off of being an LGBT advocate, but then decided to pivot to making drama videos because, well, you take a fucking guess. Ethel's videos are pretty nakedly...
Let me take a look.
Decided to pivot to making drama videos because, well, you...
14K... I mean, that makes sense. I mean, drama always makes people click more. That's just, that's just a fact. But I mean, it's YouTube. Everybody clickbaits a little bit. You kind of have to. At a certain point, you have to sort of play the game. I am actually surprised the Lily video did better than the Bosch one. But, obviously the Dune one did bad. Because it's kind of just a cringe title and stuff. You have to have a little bit more than that.
You take a fucking guess. Ethel's videos are pretty nakedly obvious clout chasing, and I'm only including her because she's one of the few channels that tries to break a story rather than react to it. But Ethel spams these videos out faster than you can blink, and going through these things has been the most mind-numbing tedium on the planet because she is a fucking moron. And also, very angry. Ethel's always on the attack with someone. She's always beefing with someone. And it's just exhausting listening to her try and claim she knows how someone thinks and being obviously wrong. I'm not even covering all of them, like the one where she argues with her own imagination, just the ones that are important to this video. Whatever, let's fucking go. So Ethel's first video that isn't a waste of time is accusing me of running some kind of secret child predator ring. All this is based off the claims of someone named Gladecat, who claimed that one day I posted an 18+ stream.
Let's see, I'm Glade. I'm a 20-year-old who joined Lily's Discord about 3 years ago. When I was 17, I was a fan of Lily because I was sorely lacking remotely leftist content on YouTube. I don't know how the fuck you were lacking that, because that shit is everywhere. I find more leftist content than I do conservative content, honestly. And at that point, I was already watching her content because I liked her analysis of shows. At the point of blaming Groom, I was already a thoroughly groomed 16-year-old who had just gotten out of a relationship with a person who was grooming me. This was a clear advantage for Lily. I watched Blame and Grooms and did them. And she showed that her Discord is a safe place for abused and groomed people. So I joined the server, hoping to build a support system of people who understood abuse and grooming. This was not the case, as it has even said in the rules that you couldn't discuss your personal stories in the group lobbies. Inside the mental health support I expected and quite frankly needed, I was instead constantly worried I was somehow breaking the vaguely worded rules and would get instantly banned from the server, so I would do everything I could to get into Lily's good graces. She posted a live stream in the server. I'd watch it and then comment in the server after. She said she has a story in the call. I'm the first one in it. Then she posted a stream in the server that was age restricted. I was 17, so I didn't want to be exposed to anything that I shouldn't have. And Lily should have known I was 17 since I didn't make it a secret while I was in the server. So I asked her why I was age restricted. She responded with, watching you'll find out. So I thought it could be too bad because she wouldn't tell me, a minor, to watch something I'm not supposed to watch. She actually did expose me to something I should have been in time. A girlfriend of hers told her to. She left her top, showing the entire stream her bare chest. I should mention that this was while she was playing Pokemon, a game that is very obviously a children's IP. I had to stop watching her streams after this instance for a few months until I turned 18 at least. I mean, that's kind of weird, honestly. That's a weird criticism. Like, obviously, Lily should, if that's true, Lily shouldn't have said, obviously, Lily should have said, watch, you'll find out, quote unquote. Like, that's definitely a weird thing to tell a minor. But if you're 17, you're not, like, traumatized from seeing a girl's chest. Like, that's a weird criticism. The rest of that I don't really have a comment about. Obviously in a Discord server like that, you definitely should have more, like, established rules, I guess. But the rest I don't really have anything to say. But the bottom part of this is a weird criticism.
And they asked, why is this 18 plus? To which I apparently said, watch it and find out, where they went in and saw my boobs at one point. Nathal never showed a screenshot of this, and I couldn't find it for the life of me. I even searched back through Glade's messages and the deleted message log. I could not find it. However, that does sound like something I would say. I have, and still do, have a habit of showing open contempt for people who ask me questions for which I believe the answer is obvious. However, if this incident did happen, I didn't learn about it until years after the fact when Glade showed up on Essence of Thought's video, upon which I immediately banned all minors from the server.
Complete. This is what about server change. Access to the server in its entirety requires you to be 18 years of age. Every user must confirm they're 18 in the section. They will be unable to view any of the channels. The rules regarding what is and is not permitted in different channels hasn't changed. If a channel isn't marked as an SW, you must not put it as SW. I think that makes sense. That happens on a lot of servers. It's just generally easier to make your server for like 18 plus, just to make everything a lot simpler. Because when you have minors mixed in, it makes everything very complicated and weird, especially when drama happens.
The server had a rule that you had to be 16 or over to be here, because that's the age at which I, as a server admin, am no longer legally responsible for anything you do. But as a rule, it kept me to my own private channels because I don't like interacting with teenagers, because there's no nice way to say it, they're dumb as fuck. But after this incident, I changed it to 19,
True.
Canadian age majority. Here's the thing. This is the only one I myself believe, even though I can't find any record of it anywhere. Because it's my own reflexive rudeness getting me into trouble, which is a common thing with me, unfortunately. So Glade, if you're watching this, I have no idea why you would be. I should have just straight up told you why it was 18 plus and saved us all the trouble. And I'm sorry. So while this incident is a pretty cut and dry instance of me dropping the ball as a server admin, Ethel decided to run with it and claim that...
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty mature of Lily to apologize for it. Even if, like, she couldn't find the thing. Because she does that something that she's done in the past. Or something she's done, like, similar things in the past.
Dry instance of me dropping the ball as a server admin, Ethel decided to run with it and claim that because this single person had a complaint about my conduct, a rather plausible complaint at that, this means I am secretly grooming thousands of minors at once. See, this is Ethel's train of logic. Because I cover all ages media like Pokemon and the Owl House and Happy Tree Friends, to Ethel that means my audience is automatically minors, and the entire purpose of covering these things at all is to bring in minors. This ignores the reality that there is a sizable audience of adult for these things, and those are the people who mostly watch these videos. But when Ethel wants to push a narrative, she ignores...
Yes and no. Obviously you're gonna have if you do videos about like cartoons and the like, you're obviously gonna have a very mixed audience of like minors and adults. That's just a fact. So I kind of agree with that, but kind of not really.
Ignores everything around her. You have to be pretty dumb to not know at this point that adult cartoon fandom is obviously a thing. But I don't need conjecture because I have proof. These are my audience metrics by age. Outside of...
Okay. So the problem is a lot of people lie about their age on YouTube too. I used to do that when I was like 15, 16. I mean, it's not that hard to do.
Demographics that just don't watch YouTube all that much. Minors are the exception in my audience, and they have always been the exception in my audience. This isn't the first time I've sourced my own audience metrics like this, and the response I get from Ethel and people like Ethel is, "That's not reliable." Now, while it is true that minors tend to lie about their age online to access content otherwise locked off, it's an anecdote that has no real numbers attached to it. It's basically, well, I remember doing it, therefore, and they don't provide numbers for it at all. And it's really sketchy to go from minors lie about their age to the majority of your audience are minors, even though you are showing data that says opposite, because I said so. The vast majority of this video is just arguments like this to argue against the simple reality that the stream was age-gated. You can argue it's against YouTube's TOS, but I mean, that's a minor complaint and certainly not the smoking gun you think it is. The only consequence there is a community guideline strike, and that's a risk I chose to take. You want to argue terms of service? I'm pretty sure this kind of sustained targeted harassment is against YouTube's terms of service, but that's not enough for Ethel. In her eyes, if I'm covering media aimed at children, I can't do anything not safe for work anywhere else in my own spaces, even if those spaces are explicitly adults only and don't allow minors in. Ethel's only smoking gun here is an honest mistake that I immediately ensured could not happen again. This is not the sign of a predator, and everything else she claims is just her opinion and her assumptions about my character, claiming I only talked about the Brony fandom's pedophilia problem to draw in minors who think I'm safe. And that's the problem with talking about Ethel. She makes these wild leaps of logic and starts declaring she knows how other people think. And you really can't counter that with anything other than you're fucking crazy. Someone could trip and Ethel will start aggressively accusing them of deliberately conspiring to assault the ground. And for all these serious accusations, Ethel never really shows any proof. She shows circumstantial proof and then her own opinions as if it's proof. Lily's playing Pokemon, which is rated E, therefore the stream is explicitly intended for kids, regardless of the rating or the fact that I swear like a trucker, therefore she is a super predator. Reminder, this all started from an honest mistake, but honest mistakes don't exist in Ethel's mind, especially not when milking something for content is on the line. Ethel even tries to argue against the idea that a 17-year-old should know 18 plus means not for them on the basis that YouTube's climate age restricts LGBT content at all. So minors won't know if a stream is 18 plus for being not safe for work or because it talks about LGBT issues. Now this has never been true for my work. I talk about LGBT issues all the time and I never get age-gated. I say the bad words like fuck and kill and suicide and I don't get demonetized for it. Here's a video of me talking about slurs, and it's not age-gated. But this is especially not true for streams. Stream VODs might get age-gated, but the actual live...
Yeah, so that's the thing I was gonna say, is that, like, you don't really get age-gated for talking about LGBT stuff or saying retarded or whatever, right? Generally not really. Unless it's, like, a really hot button issue or something. But generally, YouTube is not nearly as strict on demonetizing as much as people like to act like it is.
Event, you have to age-gate that yourself. Furthermore, we have no real source that YouTube's LGBT filtering is that all-encompassing. I know teenagers tend to believe you'll get shadow banned if you say gun, but you don't. You could argue doing this at all is tacky and inappropriate in general. I would not disagree with you. I haven't been on camera in years, but it's a far stretch from Lily is acting unprofessionally to this weird fucking Pizzagate conspiracy that Ethel has cooked up. Her next video is even worse, whereas the first one could confirm the event they were talking about happened and just got really inflammatory about how and why.
Also, putting sex to the minor in the title is crazy, first of all. I do want to point that out. Me personally, I would never, even if I was making an accusation, I don't think I would ever put that in the title.
Why? This
Or,
one
not title, I apologize, the thumbnail.
doesn't even have that. So like a lot of people on Tumblr, seriously, you can find an entire ecosystem of this shit. For a while, I was indulging the fact that Tumblr allowed NSFW content by answering NSFW anon messages. So Ethel had the brilliant idea to bring someone on to go, oh yeah, I sent some of those. Which ones? Don't know. They couldn't find them. According to them, I reset my Tumblr. For the record, my account wasn't reset until 2 months ago. That Tumblr account they cite, I'd had since I was 19. In order to reset it and keep the same blog, I'd have had to delete somewhere around 45,000 posts. You tell me how I'm supposed to do that. Look, they don't show it because nothing's stopping multiple people from claiming that Anna is theirs. It's a perfect crime, really. It's trust me, bro, with the most plausible deniability. Then Ethel goes on to make the same claims as the previous video, that because my YouTube channel covers cartoons, I'm not allowed to host adult content anywhere else, and doing so is passively grooming children who are definitely in the room with us right now. And she proceeds to take every instance of me arming people with knowledge against grooming as a secret grooming tactic. All of Ethel's videos are working backward from the idea Lily is a groomer, and so everything that counters that has to be some Manchurian shit. To quote one of my patrons, "You may not like it, but your tone, your reactions, your attitudes, and boundaries all scream abuse survivor, and everyone who has seen or lived through some shit can tell and relate to that. Abusers don't set boundaries like you do. They constantly try to tear them down or bargain with people to trick them into lowering their guards. Abusers don't avoid being alone in scenarios with minors or vulnerable people like you do. They actively work to create those situations. Abusers don't spend their lives educating others or calling out red flags and problematic behavior like you have done for so many years. They trivialize serious matters or holler like hit dogs the minute their moral integrity is called into question. Abusers don't casually talk about their abuse, trying to move past it like you've done in this very post. They trauma dump and try to portray themselves as the eternal victim, followed by immediate demands of and exploitation of all variety, emotional, economic, sexual, etc. In Ethel's deranged mind prison, all of these things, so clearly visible to my audience, are actually secret, new, unheard of grooming tactics. Especially the part where all of this happens in public, in front of other people. She goes as far as to claim...
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot to unpack there, but, like, I don't really agree with that, like, especially if Lily's putting boundaries and stuff there, which obviously we've been shown that she was, then that definitely wouldn't be abuser behavior. That would be more of, like, survivor behavior at that point, because obviously if you're an abuser, you're not going to be allowing people to have, like, boundaries and that type of thing.
That my outrage over actual instances of grooming are just performances, because the way in which I have in the past deconstructed the red flags of groomers and sexual abusers is something an abuse survivor does. We all gain insight and wisdom from our abuse to an extent, and the first thing any of us wants to do with it is arm other people so they don't have to go through the same horrors we did. I'll cop to the fact I fell into the same fallacy of trying to reclaim my trauma through hypersexuality. I certainly don't do it anymore, and I've made the point to say to others, no, it doesn't actually help. But all of that is just some secret conspiracy in Ethel's eyes. My strict response to people acting up and violating my boundaries in my spaces, in clear disregard of my rules, just more control in Ethel's eyes. The proof I'm a groomer is that I won't let people flagrantly ignore my boundaries. That is what a fucking groomer would say, Ethel. But the worst part is when Ethel tries to wallpaper over all of this by inventing a new kind of grooming. Parasocial grooming. Heads up, if you're a sexual abuse or grooming survivor, this is going to make you angry. Ethel makes the claim that by being sexual in a space that might...
So, I will say, before Lily even starts this, I will say that obviously there is such a thing as, like, using a parasocial relationship to groom somebody. That definitely is a thing. But I'm assuming that Lily's gonna point... I'm assuming that we're gonna get receipts in a second that, like, what's her name? Brittany? Or, no, not Brittany. The essence of thought person. I'm assuming that Lily's gonna say that, like, she framed it as this, like, really weird thing, but that's not actually what it is or something.
Minors could hypothetically access, either through ignoring the rules or just by happenstance, that itself is a form of grooming. To use Glade as an example, because Glade walked into a room labeled adults only and saw my tits, that is grooming by default. So many of the other person's accusations rely on things being easily accessible, i.e., I didn't ask for your ID or give you a skill testing question. I said explicitly, this is 18 plus, or don't do this if you're under 18, and you ignored that. Basically, you didn't try to keep me out hard enough for my liking. You could argue how much responsibility creators have to ensure minors don't find their After Dark blog. I would argue if 18 plus only is good enough for the platform, it's good enough for everyone. But to jump from that discussion to inventing a new kind of grooming you can do passively just by existing, this is what Republicans use to justify drag bans, which inherently target trans women. That us being sexual in adult spaces is inherently harmful to children. Ethel is a trans woman diving into literal anti-trans rhetoric. She is using the Florida State playbook. Grooming has to be targeted. Grooming involves...
Yeah, I don't think you could argue that, like, the possibility of a minor going into an adult space makes it grooming. I don't think you could really argue that. It shouldn't be like the responsibility of the creator to put in like 5 fucking age gates so like minors can't get in, right? That I would argue that probably is more up to YouTube than anything. Where if the creator labels it as 18 plus, you know, we probably shouldn't have to worry about it at that point. Because you've already set up the boundary that like, hey, this is only for adults. This is not a stream for minors or whatever. Because that is a really weird slippery slope where like all of a sudden you have to put in 20 age gates to do anything adult.
Breaking down someone's idea of right and wrong. Grooming involves conditioning someone to believe that what you're doing to them is okay. You can't groom someone just by existing in their fucking postcode. Words mean things, Ethel, and you can't make up your own new definition when you don't have anything, because that's why she does it. To accuse me of grooming minors, you would have to have DMs of me and a minor, and you don't have them because they don't exist. Ethel's harassment of me makes me angry just because a moron being allowed to speak makes me angry by default. But this right here, inventing a new kind of passive grooming, completely ignoring what grooming even means, all to go after bad trans woman me no like?
Also, yeah, for it to be grooming at all, obviously it has to be targeted to that person. That's just, I mean, inherently, like, by definition, right? Like, it would have to be targeted. It can't just be like she's passively grooming her whole audience or whatever, right? Like, inherently, by definition, grooming has to be very targeted to that person because you're like slowly breaking down their walls and that type of thing.
That's not even irresponsible or problematic. That is straight up fucking evil. All of her claims against me rely on trust me, bro. And she knows this, which is why she invented a new kind of grooming that's just a teenager got into the adult part of a website and therefore it's your fault. No, watch your fucking kids, asshole. It's not my fucking problem that you're asleep at the wheel. If I was directly targeting these kids, that'd be one thing, but they happen to be in the vicinity when I was doing something in an adult space. This is not the fucking crime you think it is. Ethel is completely detached from reality. At the end of the video, she tries to make arguments that because Glade and the other person felt like it was grooming, that makes it grooming. That's not how this works. I feel this way, and therefore you are this way, is where you go when you're caught lying. She then claims there is no harm caused by referring to this as grooming, except for the harassment and sustained abuse of a trans woman you know is not guilty of the crime you're accusing of. Lying about me carries no harm, I guess. Like, if nothing else convinced you, the fact that she just says, well, maybe it's not grooming, but we can just call it that anyway? Good fucking God. What's even better is Courtney tried to get in contact with Ethel to get screenshots of these incidents to put me in prison.
Let's take a look here. Let's see. Do you have screenshots of Lily sexing a minor or not? Racking my brain whilst also going through scripts and folders. To try and figure out. Give me 1 second. I apologize. Okay. Racking my brain whilst going through scripts and folders trying to figure out what you're talking about. Yeah, I don't see anything about screenshots of Lily sexy minors. We published victim testimony of a then minor whom Lily sexted, if that's what you mean. That's a video titled Lily Richard sexted a 16-year-old, second victim testimony. We also talked about the possibility covering Lily's porn accounts containing non-photographic depictions of child sexual exploitation materials. Those are the only 2 things I can think of that are similar to what you're asking for. I feel like be helpful. Because right now you're asking for something I don't remember talking about, making me wonder if someone else told you I had something I don't. Sorry, I've been editing my post. You said you were in contact with said minor, not that you had screenshots. I'm still looking for anywhere. Speaking of narratives, the word drama is literally banned on my public Discord because I detest how trivializing the term is. I also found out that friends with not speaking about anything. Too little, too late. Ethel, I'm trying to do something about my pedophile sister and the minors and her influence. I'm not getting it. Okay then. Yeah. Like I said, I mean, it's kind of wild. I'm curious what she's gonna say about this whole thing here.
For all of her projection, Courtney is at least trying to look like she's taking action. But because Ethel has no proof, she couldn't give it to her, and she refused to get Courtney in contact with either of them. Now, this is all a lot of stupid back and forth where two perpetual drama queens trade snide remarks like 12-year-old girls fighting over the same guy, which they are. But the main argument for why Ethel won't hand over the screenshots is because she doesn't have them. They don't exist. We've been through this already. But at one point, Courtney says, I don't watch her content. It's boring, and its dictation could rival the most ancient of Harvard professors. These are people who are supposed to be taking these things seriously, you know? I mean, she's not wrong. Ethel's content is mind-numbing, but I'm fully aware that she's a lying piece of shit. But, like, you're supposed to be taking this shit seriously. And it's not personally entertaining enough for you? And while Ethel talks like a college professor whose head struck the headboard too many times the night before, Courtney talks like the antagonist on a Disney Channel original sitcom. Even Courtney herself goes back and forth between citing examples of me supposedly breaking the law, but then turning around and making excuses not to have me charged. And while cops can be negligent in their duties, that's not where trans women are concerned. The argument has always been, the cops don't take sex abuse seriously. Bro, I am an indigenous trans woman. Of course they're gonna take it seriously. This is how you know these people are just drama ghouls. That's the important thing to remember. This is their entertainment. This is their soap opera. YouTube drama, even with extremely serious accusations, is a soap opera. They don't want their targets arrested. It means the end of their entertainment. Some of these people have oriented their entire identities around me. At one point, Ethel calls this group of morons the Lily Orchard critical community. And they all just keep arguing back and forth about why police haven't done anything about this imaginary predator. This is such a twisting of what ACAB is even about in the first place. It won't be the cops that prosecute me, it'll be the Crown's lawyers. And they're only doing this because they can't provide evidence, because they don't have it, because it doesn't exist. At all avenues, Ethel is the scummiest clout whore on the fucking planet. She had the gall to accuse another drama whore of plagiarizing her. Imagine being me in that situation, watching two parasites argue over who has the right to this open wound.
Of course they're unheated. How am I supposed to hear prayers coming out of my ass?
Ethel is a next level leech. Because you look at the videos about me, and they're getting six-figure views. Then you look at her other videos, and they have no views. And now you know why she's doing this. Ethel relies on me to push her content so much, we could call her a sugar baby. I can't even bother going into the others. I can feel my fucking brain melting listening to this dumb bitch. I had a Tumblr post up effectively saying my stalkers want to fuck me so bad it makes them look stupid, and Ethel called this sexual violence directed at her specifically. Ethel's open dishonesty is disgusting. She will lie and misrepresent and then make shit up about you to your fucking face. Ethel is one of the people I'm considering pursuing legal action against, because this could not be a more clear-cut case of defamation. The willful malice with which Ethel does everything, the open dishonesty, the way she makes things up on the spot, and her refusal to give evidence for her claims, these all communicate malice of forethought, which should be her real channel name. Whether or not I do is up in the air. I'm in discussion with lawyers about whether I'd have a case or whether it'd be even worth pursuing. We're in different countries, and the likelihood of getting anything from doing it is questionable because Ethel doesn't have anything. I have considered suing and going into debt and eating the debt on the lawyer fees just to put some damn stress on this bitch, because she is such a fucking scumbag and she deserves the stress. But I have to weigh whether or not that's even worth it. Even if you have a case, people act like suing someone who is defaming you is an admission of guilt, which is a fucked up attitude that corporate America's.
Yeah, that's kind of part of the problem, is that, like, if you act against the accusations, a lot of times people will just assume that the accusations are correct then. That, like, oh, since you're going crazy, then obviously that means those are correct or whatever. Which that's not necessarily the case. Like, if somebody was making accusations like that against me, obviously I'm going to fight back against them. Like, to act like you're supposed to just take the L is kind of crazy.
Is pushed on people. Before we move on, I have to make this clear. Do not find Glade and Mackenzie and harass them. For one, as we've covered, Glade is owed a direct apology by me. But at the end of the day, the two of them are just pawns in this stupid fucking drama game. I mean, what I said before still stands. Leave me alone and there won't be any issue. And I expect you all to hold to that as well. Anyway, that's enough about Ethel. We're moving on to fucking Lele over here. Heads up, this section is going to get into some really heavy subject matter. What I'm about to detail, both Courtney's lies and what she actually did, are absolutely horrific. If you don't have the stomach for this, you must leave immediately. Furthermore, this part is the most he said, she said that we're going to get. Neither of us have evidence for our claims, and the most I have is Courtney contradicting herself. So moving on to the big one.
Yeah, so that's the big thing here, is that obviously, like, we don't have any evidence of the claims either of them are making about assault about each other, because obviously there's no evidence for that time period. It's sort of just, you know, whoever you want to believe.
And Courtney Pete, my sister, unfortunately, a person who treats projection like an extreme sport. I haven't seen Courtney in 13 years since she ran away chasing some messed up bad boy she was obsessed with. And we know this was the reason because when she ran away, we found her diary where she'd constantly written her name with his last name. She'd already decided to take the name of the last person she was obsessed with. I'm sure she doesn't do that anymore. Anyway, I hadn't seen her since until about last year when she kicked in the door of my life, shrieking and foaming at the mouth, and made it clear to everyone who hadn't seen her in 12 years that she was still mentally 17. I didn't think mental age was a real thing until I saw my 30-year-old sister delivering the kind of bad attempts at sick burns I see from 17-year-old brain-dead simpletons today. So unlike with the others who alleged crimes with no proof and made excuses, Courtney's claims are based on things she says happened when we were children, which means proof couldn't be offered even if she wanted to. So let me make this clear. I'm not even going to pretend to be taking these things seriously, because they are not serious. Courtney contradicts herself all the time, making the mistake of trying to paint me simultaneously as a dangerous predator, but also as a worthless wimp who everyone bullied for fun. And those two things really don't go together. So we're going to be covering two things: her video with all of her delusional claims and contrasting them with posts from her now nuked Tumblr blog. And it's important to do this because in a video, Courtney could prepare everything beforehand and present something that sounds plausible and maybe have someone who isn't insane look over it. But when she was on Tumblr, she had a nasty habit of letting her spike get away from her. Courtney starts out the important part of the video by claiming I coerced her into sexual games in private and details them and other similar things, like claiming I kept molesting her in her sleep. She doesn't say how old we were, but it's clearly before age 11. This didn't happen. It's straight up not true. In fact, I know how old we're supposed to be because we have the screenshots of it. On Tumblr, I shared a story that ironically humanizes Courtney, and that when we were little, she used to be afraid of the dark and would call me into her room to sit by her bed and talk to her until she was sleepy. Something I did because at 7 years old, I love my sister, and I didn't want her to feel scared in her own room. Courtney would have been 6. So we're a year apart. A year and a half, actually. Exactly a year and a half. I was born on May 30th, 1992. She was born on November 25th, 1993. Anyway, after posting that, a story that humanizes Courtney and makes her more sympathetic, she screenshotted a completely separate post related to it and claims, well, all of this.
Let me see here. Well, she's right about one thing. She didn't ask. She demanded, given Courtney's entire con right now is insisting I would come into her room to be creepy at age 6. Obviously, any instance of me being invited or ordered in would be dismissed as a lie, whatever, she's insane. You asked me into your room. That's when the coercion started. When you make me touch you, touch the puddles of cum on your stomach, and jerk off over top of me when you thought I was asleep because you asked me to have a sleepover in your mom or in your room so we could. Yeah. So that's one thing I was kind of thinking about as this was going on. Is my biggest gripe with the initial video, like with Courtney's video, is that saying all of this happened when you all were 6 or 10, roughly, is kind of a big assumption, like, to ask us to make, right? That, like, the brother and Lily both knew what sex was and wanted it enough to, like, literally rape you. Like, I don't want to victim blame, but at the same time, it's a hard one to swallow. Like, it really is.
So I was doing all of this at age 7. This is medically impossible. I can't begin to explain how many things that aren't
There's
a
also
child's
that
fault
too.
have to go wrong for a 7-year-old to even think to do any of these things she is alleging. More than a few people have cocked an ear that this was rather unusual behavior and turned to me and went, Lily, were you being sexually abused as a child? And the answer is yes. I've talked about it before. From ages 6 to 11, I was being molested by a teacher. And from ages 14 to 15, I was being raped by an underclassman. Courtney even confirms both of these events happening in her first appearance with Poppy and Xena, and claims she did nothing about it because she was trying to be the peacekeeper. That's certainly a decision, but she would have been 10 just as the first one was ending, so whatever, we'll let it go. Granted, I never touched Courtney. Not even as a react.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's true. That's weird. Like, that's definitely weird to, like, know that your sibling is literally being raped and, like, you didn't do anything about it because you wanted to be the peacekeeper, quote unquote. That's definitely really weird behavior.
Action to be molested as a child. As a child, I loved my sister. I may not have treated her very well, but I would have never done something like that to her. But very long-term abuse gives her a really eye-catching sob story. Lily molested me when I was a baby, never mind the fact that nothing about that adds up, is a really eye-catching sob story to rope in the drama whores. But she's trying to paint me as someone who was just born wrong, who was genetically rotten and came out of the womb a vile monster, which is not real. It's not a real thing that happens. No child does these things of their own volition. Courtney then alleges I snuck into a room at age 11 and inquired about incest. This is not true. I did not know what incest was until I was 15, when a youth care worker told me what it was. Why did a youth care worker have to explain it to me? We'll get to that. She then tries to show screenshots proving that I'm into incest, and what she shows is 2 characters from a video game, a post of me saying my guilty pleasure
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we saw this.
is someone utterly adoring someone they're close to, and a dumb meme. All of this with her quoting something I never said. I guess she's trying to claim that because my profile pic when she took those screenshots was Iris, that Iris and Kira are supposed to be representations of me and her, which is not the case. This is the problem. She knows her claims against me as a child, which are painted with deliberate malice, don't hold up on their own because, like, are you stupid? 7-year-olds don't do that. So she's trying to claim Lily's still like this, but it's hard for her to do that. For full disclosure, these 2 are Grimes, Ward, and Imwe, who are the best of friends with a closeness that borders on romantic at times, until the 2 discover that they're actually siblings halfway through their second adventure. And these 2 are Iris and Kira, 2 original characters of mine. Iris is a mute clinical psychologist, and Kira is her sister, and the 2 of them live together along with Kira's wife, and they've been very close their entire lives, to the point other people get weird about it. I've always favored high intimacy relationships in all their forms. Friends, partners, and siblings being very close and very touchy-feely and adoring each other. I live for that shit. And this post here about, you know the friendship's real when there's a rumor you're gay for each other, is a joke about the fact that when people are really close, others assume their relationship is romantic. Hell, this is the entire premise behind Courtney's accusations. I read this as one way, therefore it is, and therefore you're weird. Like, no honey, that's literally the joke. The joke is a heteronormativity. Like, that's her whole shtick. Oh, Lily talked about one of the most infamous and positively received mods for one of the most popular RPGs ever made. Clearly that means she's down bad for me specifically. Hell, she does this a second time where she claims that because my favorite Family Guy character is Meg, that's proof of my guilt? What? I like Meg because she's the black sheep of the family. She just like me for real. Hey, you know who I don't like, and who you are awfully similar to? Then she goes on to claim that I would steal her underwear off her... Are you fucking kidding me? She goes on to claim that I would steal her underwear off her body at night, all without her waking up and screaming and beating the shit out of me. There are so many levels with which that doesn't work. You know, Court, stealing them out of your dresser would have been a much more plausible lie. She then goes on to claim that she told our father about all this, apparently giving him a handwritten list that my father gave to my psychiatrist, who told our father not to leave me alone with Courtney under any circumstances. Now, the list never happened, but the psychiatrist did. Wait, Lily, if there was no list or confession, why would the psychiatrist tell your father not to leave her alone with you? Because I confessed to my psychiatrist what Courtney had done to me. This order wasn't for Courtney's safety, it was for mine. See, Courtney made a grave error in judgment because she's been simultaneously trying to paint me as some dangerous predator, but she's also really vindictive and sadistic, and so she would include every humiliating story about me she could think of. One of them was to rub it in my face about how much our parents hated me. I showed it in a video. It's this post. You know what, Lily? Let's run with your Courtney is the favorite narrative. You know, our mother told me about once a month to my face that I should have drowned that thing at birth in regards to you. Our father said more behind your back than to your face that you're the one we actually care about, Courtney. I'm the favorite. So that means I can pick up the phone tomorrow, say 3 words, and get whatever I want out of those people. Can you do that? They drove to Montreal for me. They bought plane tickets for me. Even to this day, when I scream at our mother about her rapist son, she ends the interaction with, "You can always come home, Courtney. Do you get that?" Oh wait, they paid to get you out of the house. Whoops. If I'm the favorite, that makes you that thing. How's that make you feel? Feel better? If I'm the favorite, that means I'm still the one that's wanted back, while you're that thing. These are the people you're siding with, Lily dearest. People who don't want you. How's that working out for you? And then she goes on to claim, based on nothing, that I'm on disability, and then disparage people on disability. The thing about siding with our parents jumped out at me. This squabble is between you and me, Courtney. How am I siding with our parents? What does...
So, yeah, a lot of these definitely, again, it is obviously he said, she said to a certain point, but a lot of this does make me call into question Courtney's video, and it does make me lean a lot towards Lily at this point. Because I was trying to give charitability towards Courtney, but a lot of this, at this point, doesn't really add up.
Not siding with them look like? Oh, but there's a second post. While you may not know my father, you're not wrong in the assumption that he too played a part. He was the one that spanked Lily way past what even a spanking advocate would call appropriate. He was the one that got loud and aggressive with her while he was almost 6 foot and 300 pounds, and she was maybe 5'4" and 86 pounds, and his child. He didn't give a shit when Lily was being harassed at school, didn't care when she got hit in the head with a rock and needed stitches. He was just pissed he had to leave work to take her to the hospital. He used punches as a form of affection to the point I started punching my friends in the arm at 6, and couldn't understand why they were upset. He never stopped Cameron from trying to assault her, and would try and punish me for getting myself involved. Just to pause, this post seems to be where some people are getting the idea that my brother sexually abused me. No, he didn't. Our brother was physically aggressive and really liked being rough with us, and with me specifically, he would practice every new pressure point he learned. Still bad, but like, the fault is on our parents for letting it happen rather than on him. I mean, it'd be up to me if I still wanted to be angry about that, and I'm not. I love my brother. Anyway, back to the crazy. He was a big fan of "Stop crying or I'll give you something to cry about," to the point even I expected to hear it from my teachers if I got caught crying at school. He was also a fan of "I feed you, clothe you, and put a roof over your head," as if doing the bare minimum to keep himself out of prison was, after having unprotected sex, is something you had to thank him for. He was an incredibly abusive man. It didn't matter that he never punched us in the face. Those are her words detailing how horrifically abusive our parents were toward me. How much contempt they viewed my entire existence. My own mother wanted to drown me. Are these the kind of parents who would hear an accusation of sexual assault against the child they hate and do nothing? Our brother had already been kicked out of the house and was permanently living in the custody of the province at this point. They were not averse to dropping their children on the province's doorstep and washing their hands of the matter. If Courtney had accused me of sexually abusing her, our parents would have believed it, and I would have been out of the house. My father had split on his children to an absurd degree. He believed any
yeah, I mean, that's true. I mean, that definitely makes sense that if that's true, and, like, even if, because Courtney's admitting, like, how much they hate Lily, if she had made that accusation against her, they definitely would have thrown her out, especially because they had already thrown out the brother at that point. That definitely makes sense. Yeah, as this goes on, I'm definitely leaning a lot more towards Lily at this point.
accusation made against me. He was convinced my behavioral issues were some deliberate act of malice against him. He called me the Antichrist many times as a child. If Courtney had made this accusation, my life would have been over. Courtney knows this. These are her words. This is straight from her fucking mouth, which is why the truth is that she blackmailed me with it. When we were teenagers, Courtney walked into my room one afternoon and made a simple ultimatum. Don't resist or I'll tell Dad you raped me. And then she raped me that day, and continued to do so for a year. I mentioned being sexually abused at 2 points in my life by 2 different people. Here are their names. What followed was the worst fucking year of my life, where my mental health, already on a downward spiral, spiraled even harder to the point that I was having manic episodes in school, made extremely alarming and upsetting remarks about wanting to kill everyone, and sometimes just sitting in the quad and wishing for death. It's hard to describe what it's like being in that kind of situation, being preyed on and having your own reputation as a difficult child used against you like this. It's a very empty, oppressive feeling. There's an image I keep in my pictures folder of like a suburban street that's in thick fog and it's overly gray. That's the best way I can describe the kind of abuse I had endured up until that point. This really was just what life was for me. And I did not believe that there was any way out or any alternative because this was just my entire life. When you get a reputation in your early years for being a behavioral problem, that follows you until you become an adult. Nobody believes you when you complain about how you're treated. Everyone assumes you did something if you're ever hurt, and it goes on your record so new faces are primed not to believe you. And then people who see that you can be hurt and get away with it will start hurting you. I was diagnosed with oppositional defiance disorder, whose risk factors are listed as abuse and more abuse. Heads up for parents, if your child is diagnosed with this, your kid's being abused. If it's not you, you'd better find out who. After a certain point, you just give up and you stop trying. I didn't tell anyone what Courtney was doing to me. I didn't think it would matter. I already knew what I was going to hear, and I just didn't bother. I was hospitalized for the following year because I was so unstable, I was considered a danger to myself. It eventually reached the point where people couldn't ignore it or write it off anymore, and they had to do something. I think the tipping point was me talking about violence to my math teacher. I was first held in the Wood Street Center for 2 months, and a no-contact order was placed against my parents and my sister. My brother was the only one allowed to visit me, which he did only once because I was out in Truro. I was then taken to the Adolescent Center for Treatment, which was run by the IWK. I was there for just over a year. The order against my parents was lifted after 3 months, and the order against my sister was extended after I reacted so violently to the idea she might visit me that I had to be isolated. And at first in the hospital, I was unable to be helped because I wouldn't talk to anyone. I didn't trust them. Granted, I was doing better in the hospital even with that, just because I was out of that environment. And I was in an environment where the most you get from mouthing off to someone is like, I'll talk to you when you're ready to be respectful. Nobody screamed at me, nobody yelled at me, nobody threatened me. It was great, honestly. I only opened up to my primary worker 8 or 9 months in, a woman named Krista, and only after I received a promise of total confidentiality. The legality of that is murky. In Canada, psychiatrists are required to report abuse, but even minors still have the right to confidentiality. And given my medical records and the records they had on my parents, it was determined that it would only put me in more danger. And given that I was 16 when this came out, I was old enough to make those decisions about my own care. Given that I was already in an inpatient unit, there wasn't an immediate threat to me that had to be acted on in that moment. Luckily, when I returned home, whatever had possessed Courtney to do this apparently faded, and she didn't trouble me ever again. Now, some of you may be thinking, hang on, wouldn't Courtney have been 13 when this happened? You argued a 7-year-old couldn't do this without outside stimuli. What about a 13-year-old? Truthfully, you're right. There had to be something, but I don't know what it is. I mean, my first thought is abuse. What she was doing to me is about the only thing that gives any credence to the idea that our brother was doing something to her. But that's just my own wild speculation. It could have been someone else. It's not like she's gonna tell us the truth, but given the fact that she's in her 30s, taking my name and spends a lot of her time concocting this fantasy that I'm secretly into her, I mean, what other fucking conclusion am I supposed to draw here? All I know is there was something. So Courtney's responsibility for her actions is up in the air, and she's more interested in poisoning the well and covering her ass. I know the stalkers who are deeply invested in hating me will dismiss this, but Courtney's already detailed how the environment we grew up in doesn't support her claims against me. These are her own words contradicting her. Courtney's abuse had long-lasting consequences. I was messed up for a long time. Actually, no, granted, it wasn't entirely Courtney. I mean, like, the rest of the family, with the exception of Cameron, had a pretty big hand in it. I couldn't have healthy relationships with people because of it. I was unstable. I'd freak out if anyone touched me. I became reclusive when I finally moved out on my own. This is difficult for me to talk about because I know most of these little parasites are gonna scream lies based on nothing. KP claims in her big video about me that she used hard evidence, but we've already gone through her evidence. It's nothing. And what little there is contradicts what people are saying.
Yeah, so the problem here at this point, right, is I'm leaning towards Lily, but the problem is that, like, this is a lot of he said, she said. Like, it's a lot of, hold on. Sorry. Yeah, that's my biggest problem right now, is it's hard to pick a side here because it's a lot of like Courtney saying one thing and then Lily saying something completely different. I lean a little bit more towards Lily because Lily has a lot of receipts. And Lily's giving some really good explanations here.
And these morons take it at face value. Courtney has no proof other than pointing at unrelated things and going, "This is proof. You want me." Admittedly, I don't have proof either, other than her own words describing the way our home environment was set up to enable the abuse I suffered. Courtney claims one thing in her video, but we have proof of her contradicting herself. Courtney admits she was the favorite, that they adored her. She has admitted to it and tried to lie about it later. She incessantly swaps between trying to accuse me of being a predator and trying to humiliate me with embarrassing stories of me showing the red flags of abuse. Courtney is trying to claim that I want to fuck her based on the video games I play, while she's calling herself Courtney Orchard. I changed my name to Orchard long after she left. It isn't her name, and this is just fucking weird. And before she went on this warpath, she actually reached out to me. "Hey, it's Courtney. We need to talk. I can't imagine the fuckers who birthed us in any way are supportive." Supportive of what? I don't know. "And I've blamed you for a lot in our childhood that wasn't actually your fault. I'd like to change that. Text me or call me it." She did this on DeviantArt. I didn't see it. I logged into DeviantArt once in a blue moon, and I guess because I didn't answer in time, she started doing this. And then while she was having a bender on Tumblr, she kept bitching about the fact that I wouldn't talk things out with her. I mean, do I need to draw you a fucking map?
Hey, Angie, about earlier. Chill your whole fucking family. Work's really stressful. Little
Dude.
cocksucking piece of shit.
Let me make this clear. I don't want you going after Courtney over this. It's just like I said with the others. Her own words contradicting themselves aside, you only have my word that this even happened. This isn't even for the people who've already decided they don't like me. I'll never convince them because they've wrapped up too much ego in hating me. I've never wanted to discuss Courtney's abuse outside of, like, my therapists. I was prepared to take it to my fucking grave because I hate reliving it. I hate the person I became during it. I hate the person I was during my childhood. I hate Jerry Pete so much. I hate how he just gave up. I hate how he laid down and waited for death that wasn't coming. I hate how he let all of this happen to him with only screaming matches in response. I hate how he was so resigned to his own abuse, he would try and convince himself this is fine. People hear about what happened to me and they're surprised I'm not addicted to drugs or that I haven't killed anyone. I don't want to relive being him by going into more detail than I already have. The only one who knows the details is my wife. Our parents now know what Courtney has done, but they don't know the gory details, and it will stay that way. Courtney's behavior now, particularly taking my name, should be called out as the very creepy, obsessive behavior it is. But going after her over her sexual abuse, that should be my call to make. But I'll be honest with you, this woman terrifies me. Everyone else is a loser mauling over unrelated crap and clout chasing like crazy. And Brittany may be a terminally friendless forever alone type, but Courtney is just straight up insane. I don't want Courtney in that way. I never have. I don't want Courtney near me. I shudder to think what might have happened to me if I had answered that message in time, because given her behavior, she did not have altruistic intentions. The fact that she reached out saying she wanted to make amends for blaming me for things that weren't my fault, and then goes on a tirade that she's been on for over a year now, which is the truth here? She talks about how she suffered serious abuse and then has to garnish it with all these petty teenage girl digs at me. Why is she so distracted? If you had a story about abuse, wouldn't you stick to it? Hell, she's made the same accusations against our brother and father before. Sure, Courtney, you were getting passed around like a fucking piñata. I was in therapy for a long time dealing with the
Jesus.
consequences of her abuse. I've had a lot of complicated feelings about
Yeah, that's true. That, like, if it was a consistent story, it'd be a lot more believable, but the fact that she changes it a lot definitely makes it kind of hard to believe Courtney at this point. What was the other thing? Lily just said something I was going to comment on. I fucking blanked.
I don't want Courtney in that way. I never have. I don't want Courtney near me. I shudder to think what might have happened to me if I had answered that message, and I don't want to now know what Courtney has done.
Yes. So the other thing I was going to say, so if Lily changed her name from, I believe it was Pete, to Orchard, and then Courtney used the Orchard name to get attention, that's definitely weird. I get it if okay, so I get it for the accusation video, but especially if she used it afterwards is definitely kind of weird.
But they don't know the gory details, and it will stay that way. Courtney's behavior now, particularly taking my name, should be called out as the very creepy, obsessive behavior it is. But going after her over her sexual abuse, that should be my call to make. But I'll be honest.
Also, that's true too, where like lambasting her for the essay definitely should be the actual victim's call as far as like whether or not Courtney should be tried and all of that. That should definitely be up to the victim, as all things considered.
With you, this woman terrifies. Everyone else is a loser, mauling over unrelated crap and clout chasing like crazy. And Brittany may be a terminally friendless, forever alone type, but Courtney's just straight up insane. I don't want Courtney in that way. I never have. I don't want Courtney near me. I shudder to think what might have happened to me if I had answered that message in time, because given her behavior, she did not have altruistic intentions. The fact that she reached out saying she wanted to make amends for blaming me for things that weren't my fault, and then goes on a tirade that she's been on for over a year now, which is the truth here? She talks about how she suffered serious abuse and then has to garnish it with all these petty teenage girl digs at me. Why is she so distracted? If you had a story about abuse, wouldn't you stick to it? Hell, she's made the same accusations against our brother and father before. Sure, Courtney, you were getting passed around like a fucking pinata. I was in therapy for a long time dealing with the consequences of her abuse. I've had a lot of complicated feelings about my sister over the years. Some days I've hated her. Other days I've wanted to forgive her. I know that sounds absolutely fucking crazy. I have that thought and I think, what the fuck is wrong with me? But when I look at this, Courtney, you frighten me. I think I dodged a bullet not answering that message in time. Whatever you're doing now, I have no reason to believe answering that would not have been 10 times worse. Stay the
I mean, it's a pretty normal thing though. Like, as far as I understand it, that happens a lot with victims where like they'll go kind of back and forth on these things where like they kind of want to forgive the abuser, but like they kind of already know that would be incredibly stupid to do at the same time. So my understanding is they go back and forth on that a lot, so that makes sense.
hell away from me. I should not have to do this. As we've gone through, the evidence against me is literally nothing. Screenshots with no names attached, anonymous messages saying, "Trust me, bro." Assumptions made about my audience to claim that I am grooming thousands of children at once just by existing in public, which is such nakedly obvious transphobia. This is what conservatives say about trans femmes all the time. Lily initiated unwanted physical roleplay with me, says someone who shows a screenshot of her initiating it. Lily confessed to...
Yeah, that's kind of a hard one to defend, that like you're claiming that, but also at the same time there's screenshots of you initiating the roleplay and stuff, so like it's kind of rough.
The sexual sadism to my face, says someone who shows a screenshot with no names, profile pictures, or timestamps. Lily doing 18+ content in her own space is grooming because her audience is mostly minors. My audience is not mostly minors. Lily raped me as a child and her parents did nothing. Says someone who then details how our parents hated me so much they wouldn't have protected me from anything and assumed the worst of me at all times. Lily is faking her heritage, says someone with the exact same claim to their own heritage as me. At every avenue they are asked to show proof and make excuses, usually saying the lack of proof is more proof to my guilt. This is the most ridiculous shit show I've ever seen in my fucking life. When YouTubers get clapped for preying on minors, there's entire dossiers of evidence, and there's none of that here. And my accusers keep bounding back and forth between accusing me of heinous crimes and trying to humiliate me and dunk on me at every turn. KP and Brittany were cackling in this fucking video. They don't take their own garbage seriously. Brittany and Courtney are fucking Kiwi Farms users. These people claim to have definitive proof that I'm some kind of super predator who can't hide her crimes, and they won't do anything about it. Oh, the cyber tip line hung up on me. Bullshit! Oh, well, we can't have her arrested because we don't live in our country.
Excuse me, but I'm actually criminal, file charges or piss off. I mean that's a pretty reasonable thing for Lily to say. That like if you have the proof, then you need to like slap the bitch on the table. You know what I mean? Like that's probably similar to something I would say. Like if you have evidence, I'm gonna need you to present that. If not, then kick rocks.
That's not how anything works. Oh, well, all cops are bastards and won't do anything. You're already priming yourself to not accept me getting off as innocent, and you won't bother trying to vindicate yourself in that? These people will screech and scream and act like complete shit-slaying gibbons about how they know I'm a monster and have proof of it. And then they show nothing and do nothing. They'll show things that openly reveal themselves to be liars in real time. They make excuses for why they don't have to do anything and just keep farming content. It's not even that I haven't been charged with anything. Nobody's even checked. I've never been questioned by police. I've never been bothered by law enforcement. And when people who don't have a grudge against me look into these claims, they find the same nothing I've just detailed. The fucking Canadian military is looking at this crap because of what Courtney's been claiming about my brother, and they can't believe the lunacy of what they're looking at. These people could not be putting off red flags for abusers and liars any harder, and all those red flags get ignored. Why? Well, the audience for this garbage has already admitted to why. I unsubscribed from Lily's channel because she has a pure hatred for anime, and the way she insulted anime fans by calling them disgusting weebs. When Lily made a video called Steven Universe's Garbage and Here's Why, and her Dungeon Meshi video came out, I knew it was the last straw for me and suffered a mental breakdown because of her.
You gotta be fucking kidding.
That's what all this is about? You guys are losing your fucking minds because I said some cartoons were cringe?
That's what it's all about, isn't it? That's what...
Well, so she definitely said more than that in those videos, but yeah, like, that's definitely really cringe to, like, be crashing out in comment sections and say you're unsubbing from her because she was mean to a cartoon that you like.
But it's always been about...
I'm not joking. I've said all this is just because of my media takes in the past, because they can't stop making that clear. Steven Universe's Garbage and Here's Why is brought up in the comments of every single one of these videos. People are still so utterly seething over me not liking a show to the point they will believe anything about me without looking into it. These people make up entire mythologies about me ruining the reputation of someone whose career is doing fucking fine. They blame me for a show getting canceled 2 years before I said anything about it. They make me the villain in their fandom. They spend more time bitching about me than they do talking about the thing they like.
True.
They accuse me of destroying media literacy because other people don't like the show they are unhealthily attached to. And in the comments of videos where I'm being accused of serious crimes, they still can't stop bawling over the fact that I insulted their Blorbo. So I'm being accused of being the sex pest to end all sex pests, who is simultaneously a rampant predator who would make Jeffrey Epstein blush, and yet has simultaneously avoided all criminal charges, despite doing all of this in public, and it's being taken at face value because some fanboys cannot accept the idea of someone not liking their thing. That's what all of this is about. It's what it's always been about. When someone expresses distaste for my media takes, this pustule is in their fucking DMs instantly. They whip up harassment mobs out of media fandom like it's their own personal Gamergate. Actually, no. That's how Gamergate started. A guy's partner broke up with him, and then he went on the warpath, and a bunch of misogynistic little trolls invented a lie about collusion and corruption to go after bad non-binary person Mino-like. The way I have been treated over the pettiest fucking garbage is nothing short of sociopathic. For the crime of being kinda cringe and having media takes you don't like, I have been defamed, harassed, assaulted in real life, had death threats made against me, I've been pedo-jacketed, stalked, doxxed, I've been perved on, I've been sexually harassed, I've been forced to see into the deranged lunacy that is my incestuous heathen of a sister's head. I've had friends take our falling out so personally they've rescinded their consent for things years after the fact and tried to make me out to be a sexual abuser. I've had people who cannot obey a single boundary in their goddamn life turn around and act like I'm the problem for it. I get crap for being short-tempered with my audience over boundaries, or the fact that they immediately do the thing I ask them not to do. But you've now seen into the abyss of over a decade of harassment, gaslighting, flagrantly ignored boundaries, and abuse. If you've ever wondered why is she like this, this is why I'm like this. You can't be treated for 20 fucking years like your own consent and feelings on anything doesn't matter, and then not be upset when people continue to do it. This is why I'm so raw about people recommending me shit, because it's just the flagrant disregard of my boundaries that I'm so sick of. I'm sick of being treated like my boundaries don't matter, which means, yeah, sometimes I lash out at someone who didn't really do anything malicious in retrospect. If that was ever you, I'm sorry. But it has been my entire life of shit like this. I know I can be nasty to my audience sometimes, which is why it means the world to me that so many of you stood up to help me. Going through like 10 years of this garbage and saving me the nightmare of having to watch so many dishonest videos about me, one after another, all at once, it means more to me than you will know. I am so sorry for being so cruel to you and taking out my anger with all of these people on you over the years. I'll be better, I promise. If you've been waiting all this time for me to respond to all of these accusations, I hope this has given you relief or closure. Seeing the dearth of actual evidence and the way in which these people put out red flags like crazy should assuage any further worries. And if they have real evidence, if they think I've misrepresented them, they're more than welcome to show it. And if you don't believe me, because you've already decided I was guilty and you think accusations are evidence, and you're still seething over bad critical lady Nino-like, then...
Die.
I'm Lily. Thank you for your time.